Hi, my name is Donna and welcome to my sewing journey. Today I'm going to answer a viewer's email. What she asked is, the blankets behind you in your videos, are they quilts? The answer is no. She also asked if I made them. The answer is yes. But they are simple fleece throws. But back in the day, the big popular one was everybody clipped them and then tied knots all the way around, and then you had all these fringes everywhere. Not my favorite. I didn't like the way there's little gaps between the knots and stuff could get in there, and they became a problem when you wash them. So I scrapped that idea and just started making my own, where there's no holes or openings between the two pieces of fleece, but it still gets the warmth and they're still really cute. This one behind me, on this side of me, is one I made for my daughter. She's a big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas. And I got two Nightmare Before Christmas fabrics. One side is this really fancy pattern, and the other one is this cute ones with Jack Skellington. And if you look close, I have a border that I've sewn in on each side. It's the same, the fabric itself. And it's really not that difficult, but it looks nice, clean finish, and it looks really professional, if you ask me. It looks really cute. And it's a really great gift. She actually got this as one of her gifts. She loves it. That's why it's on the couch, because she uses it all the time. So and the one on my right, this is actually my blanket. This one I used a real cute snowflake pattern on one side, and then I just used a real bright blue pattern, solid on the other side. And I did the same technique. And I'm going to teach you how to do that technique. What's really great about this is fleece comes 58 to 60 inches in width on the bolt. So you can determine the size of your blanket. It'll be approximately, because 60 inches is 5 feet, about 5 feet by whatever length you want in number of yards. So if you want it to be by 6 feet, you do 2 yards. If you want it to be by 3, you want it to be 3 by 5, you just do 1. Or you can do half a yard, do a little bit more, do like 4.5 feet by 5. So it's almost a square. And that's a good 1.5 by 1.5 yards is like a good couch throw size. And then if you're going to put it on a bed, I usually do 2.5 yards. With that said, let's go make this cute little blanket. Okay, the first thing that you're going to do is you take your 2 pieces of fleece and you lay it on a really big table. This is, I don't know if I can widen this out enough where you can see everything, but this table that I have folds out to, it's 36 by 60 when it's folded all the way out. So I get as much of the fabric on here as I can. And then I have it so that I've already laid it down. This cute little paw print pattern with the bones is going to be my on the back side. And then the other one, this cute little Snoopy one, is the front. And I'm laying them facing them so that the right sides are together. And see this salvage edge? What I'm going to do is match this salvage edge pretty close, because we're going to cut this. And what you want to do is lay the whole thing out as far as you can on both sides. Because the goal is you're going to cut these as straight as you can. And I'm going to cut just inside, just at this, right here at that salvage edge where the color changes. I'm actually going to cut that I'm going to cut it there. And you want to match, since this one has a smaller salvage printed edge, you want to match this edge with this edge. And you want to match it all the way down. After you do that, I found that if I put pins, if I kind of use pins and put them, over here, just a little distance away, and just kind of put them down the fabric, that it just keeps it in place, keeps the pieces from shifting, and then I can cut this edge. When you get to the end of your fabric, I'll show you this over here. When they're hand cut, they're going to have, show you over here. Sometimes you're going to have differences. Sorry about that. You're going to have where the edges don't meet perfectly. That's fine. You just want it somewhat straight. So what you'll do is You can see my fabric. It's going to be slightly different all the way down. On this, like this one's wider than the other one as I go all the way down. And at this edge, I call this the curled edge, because this is where the machine, these little holes is where the machine pulls it through. And this, you're going to pin that other side, pin down this side. And when you get to here, you'll know whether these are going to match up or be really far off. And then you'll trim it so that these match up. So I'm going to pin mine. And then after you get it all pinned on both sides, go down both sides and do the long edge with the printed side of your selvage. They all have, almost all fleeces have this. When you do that, then you pin the 3 sides. When you get to the raw edge of the other side, that's easier to gauge. And that's the side that you want to cut and trim so that the 2 sides match, because you have a little more leeway. So I'm going to pin mine, pin both sides, and then I'll show you what the other end looks like after I pin it and I'm getting ready to trim it. I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I've pinned all the way around. And as you can see, I put the pins like a good 2 to 3 inches away. The reason is I just want them to hold the fabrics together, because I want to trim them together. And as I said, these are not going to match. So what I do to make it easier is I roll the one that's longer over. I just roll that over. And I'm just going to barely trim off this curled part. So you're just going to trim it right at that curled edge where the fabric changes from the fuzzy pile of the fleece. You're just going to trim right there where that is. You're not going to see these raw edges at all, but you don't want this curled part. It will mess up the final look of your piece if you have this in the way. So I'm just going to cut this small portion to show you what I do. Then I'm going to take this one, and I use the bottom one as a guide. You can flip your fabric over to make it a little easier. Just have a lot of experience doing this, so. And you'll see they're pretty close. And you'll do that on both sides so that it matches. And then you're going to trim all 4 sides. The side seams, well, I don't want to call them seams, but the sides, when you trim those, you're just going to trim, since they're pinned, the edge to match the other edge. You don't need, it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about if it's straight. You don't need to use your straight ruler unless you want to. It really isn't going to matter. It's all going to be hidden away. And then if you have, like if my top fabric is longer than the other side, you could just trim that off. So what you're going to do, what I typically do is I would trim the green side first. Whatever black is overhanging from the green, I would trim that first, flip it over, and then trim whatever green is hanging over from the black. So I just trim the black from the green on this side, and then I'll flip the whole blanket over, and I'll trim where the green is beyond the black. And you want it somewhat straight. So after you cut it, after you get it, the whole thing cut, I use one of these grid boards and I lay it on that. So I would lay it like this after I cut it to see how straight, this one's pretty straight, to see how straight it is. And if I have a wave somewhere, I'll just trim it so that it's straight. You want it somewhat straight. So I'm going to go ahead and trim my whole blanket. You trim yours and I'll meet you back here. Okay, I finished trimming all the way around, and so it's nice and flat. Another trick that you can do to make sure that you get it straight is you can drape it off the edge of a table, and as long as you know that the two sides are perpendicular and that they're even with the table, and you can take your scissors and drag it across the table for straight. Just a trick that I use. That way I make sure the whole side's straight. What you're going to do is now you're going to sew all four sides. And you're going to leave a nice big gap. I usually leave about a 12-inch gap because it's a lot of fabric you're going to pull through. And because you're pulling so much through, you don't want to be popping stitches or get it extra stretched on either side. And so I found that 12 inches seems to be the magic number for me, so that I pull it through without popping any stitches and making any little tears or getting it, little bunches next to the either side. I usually do it, and it's up to you how you want to do it, but I usually do it about 12 inches from a corner also. So I'm going to sew all the way around, leaving a big 12-inch gap about 12 inches from the corner. So you go sew yours and I'll go sew mine. Now, when I'm going to add that, because I have two completely different colors, I'm going to use a black fabric on the bottom and I'm going to use a green fabric on the top. So my bobbin, I'm going to sew it in this facing up, and I'm going to use a black bobbin thread with black thread, and I'm going to use a green thread for my top thread. So again, you go sew yours, I'll sew mine, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, getting ready to sew, I just wanted to point out something. You want a 1/2 inch seam. You want to start a 1/2 inch from the corner. You don't want to start at the edge of the fabric. You want to start up a 1/2 inch. And of course, you're going to back tack when you start and when you stop. But all four corners, you want to make sure that you're a 1/2 inch away. And that's because we're going to clip the corners and we don't want to clip any of the seams. So 1/2 inch all the way around, start, go down 12 inches, leave a 12-inch gap, and then go all the way around and finish, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, sewed all the way around a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to show you how to clip these corners. So you want to, make sure you can see this. So you want to start, and you want to just curve around that corner just a little bit, just like that. And the reason you want to do that is you still want a little piece here, but then when you turn it the other way, you want those corners not to quite butt up to each other. So you want to curve it a little bit so that when you turn it right side out, it's not 10 tons of fabric in this corner. So I've sewn all the way around. Here's my gap. And you're just going to, I go to the opposite corner. And you're just going to pull everything through your opening. And put it all right side out. So I'm going to finish pulling this out. You turn yours, and I'll turn mine, and I'll meet you back here. I've turned it, and now I'm going to take my hand, and I'm going to push through, and I'm going to pull all it apart. Each corner, when I find a corner, I'm going to push my finger all the way in there to push that corner all the way out. And just keep going around the whole blanket. And you want to open it up, the seam all the way, because you want it to lay flat when you're done. You're going to lay it flat like that. And each corner, when you get to it, again, push that corner all the way out. And you should be able to do it with just your finger. If you can't, you can use a tool, but please don't use your scissors. Don't undo it. And I'm going to show you, I have a little wooden dowel here, and I'm going to use that. I'll show you. Oops, sorry. Push that all the way through. And I use that to push out a corner if I can't quite get it. There we go. So that when you sew, you'll have a nice, see how it's not too bulky, and it'll be no bulkier than the rest. I'm going to finish pushing all my sides out, and I'll meet you back here. Pushed it out all the way around, and now I'm going to find that opening. Going to take my fingers and fold it. And as always, I like to make sure I find the end with a pin. And I'm going to pin that so I know where to start and stop. And pin both sides. Then pull it, and you want to make sure it's folded over the same amount on each side. Pull it tight, lay it flat, and then after you pull it tight and lay it flat, I just like to put the one in the middle just to keep it there. I'm going to top stitch this little section here. I'm going to top stitch this 1/8. And then after I do that, I'm going to go around the entire blanket and stitch 1 inch. And you'll see that that 1/2 inch that you have in here is going to create that little border for you. So go all the way around the whole blanket at 1 inch. Then turn here at 1 inch. All the way around the whole blanket, and you'll be done. I will sew mine. I'm going to top stitch this, and then after I top stitch, I'm actually going to start my 1 inch at one end of my 12-inch opening, and I'm going to go 1 inch all the way around the whole blanket, and then go past it a little bit and back stitch, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, one thing I want to point out, I finished sewing my fleece, and whenever I finish sewing my fleece, I immediately clean my machine because you will get a lot of lint. And this is a bottom loading bobbin machine. I can actually show you all that lint in there. The reason I actually consider this part of making the project, because it gets so filthy. So you pull your bobbin out, and if you can see in there, I use this. I got this little brush from a fabric store, actually on the one end. I don't even remember what brand it is, but on one end it has the little holes so that it can help you put a needle on. But what I like about this is it's got a lot of static cling to it, so when you brush it through, see how it just grabs the lint as you just go around? See all that lint that it's grabbing? That's because this is fleece. The other thing is I discovered these. These are little mascara wands that are disposable, but these have like little, you can bend them. The reason I like those is because they will also, you can just get any hole, just put it in there, and you just go around and turn it, get it all in there. Up by the feed dog, spin it, look at all that's coming out. These are things that you can do. Isn't that awful? Okay, and then I like to take my pressure plate off and do the top of my machine as well. Gonna go down in here, get all that, look at all that lint. Oh, goodness. And there's some right there. And you want to get this because this buildup of lint, that's really going to cause problems for your machine later. And I got these, my daughter is like, she's really into crazy makeup. And so she wanted a bunch of these wines, and I got these little inexpensive ones from actually from Amazon. And she said, "Mom, they're not sturdy enough. They're too flimsy." So I went ahead and got her the right ones, and I thought, I used to use pipe cleaners, and I'm like, these guys are a little bit smaller, and they're just as bendy as a pipe cleaner. I should use this. Oh my gosh, lifesaver, because it gets in all the nooks and crannies, and it's really small. But make this a routine part of any time you do a fabric that has a lot of, okay, there we go. So a fabric that has a lot of pilling, like a lot of fuzz to it, because it gets all down in your machine. And you definitely want to keep your machine running well, and you just should make it part of your routine cleanings. And like I said, this little brush, it grabs all the, it gets all the lint too. It's pretty cool. So that's what I do at the end of my project. And now let me show you the project. Okay, finished cleaning my machine. Here's the finished product. It's adorable. Nice corners. Hope that focuses. Look at the little paw print that ended up in the corner. Isn't that cute? So before I gift these, because they are a little fuzzy, I like to wash them in a washing machine and then dry them. And then that way it gets rid of all the excess lint that just got created by sewing it. So they're wonderful little gifts for anybody. Me and my huge Snoopy fan, you know, I just had to buy this and fabric and make something with it. So that's another fun project that can also be a gift. Again, make sure when you clean your machine after using something that has so much lint. Otherwise, I'd clean it about every 2 to 3 project if it's a low lint project. But if it's a project that produces a lot of lint like fleece, I definitely clean it. Never use compressed air. Always use like a little vacuum cleaner, or like you saw me, I use a little mascara wand and a little brush that it actually attracts, static clean makes it attract all that lint. So I hope you had fun making this project. It should take you about an hour to do. The hardest part is cutting the fabric. It's not even the sewing part. So I hope you enjoyed making this project with me, and subscribe and follow me for more fun projects, and have a great day sewing.